financially than they were before President Biden took office. Compare that to just 16% who say they're better off financially since Joe Biden became president. I don't know, Congressman. Could that be because the economy is, in fact, not strong despite the urgings of the White House?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Todd. I mean, one thing that President Biden doesn't talk about is the 13% increase in inflation since he's taken over. He continues to tout about the great job report. But what he's not talking about is that many of these people who are added into these jobs reports are people who are now having to look for the second and third and fourth job to be able to sustain the gas prices, the inflation, the cost of living increases, as well as for the cost of our groceries. And so a lot of these are not just this, but people who are returning back to the job market after the COVID lockdowns and after some of the shutdowns that had gone on. So I don't think that these numbers that are being reported are completely accurate. I think they are a plus up for the State of the Union address, and I think that they don't address the real issues when it comes to still our gas prices are far too high. Still our cost of living is far too high. Parents are actually having to make the decision, do I fill my gas tank or fill my groceries? And so I think that that isn't really an economic prosperity that Biden likes to tout around.
My sources tell me the same thing that you just said. These numbers, when it comes to jobs, are going to be revised down because they were juiced up for the State of the Union. We'll keep our eyes on that. Want to do some other numbers with you here. Americans struggling, of course, in this economy. Total costs up 6.5%, rent up 8.3%, food prices 10.4% overall. Electricity costs have surged 14.3%. Taken as a whole, isn't this the real State of the Union?
Yes, that's exactly right. I mean, when you want to talk about the successes of Joe Biden, if the State of the Union was about the successes, this would be the shortest State of the Union speech ever given in history. We have to acknowledge the fact that we've got record border crossing. We have record increases in criminality. We have sexualization going on of our children in our schools. We've got an America Last agenda. We've got the spy balloon that just came over that shows the weakness on the world stage. We have the Afghan botched withdrawal. But I'll tell you what, Todd, one of the things that I'd like to see that we didn't see in the last State of the Union, how about the commander-in-chief address the 13 fallen heroes in Afghanistan on August 26th that he's responsible for? Why has he not offered any condolences during his State of the Union speech like last time to these Gold Star families? I mean, this is something that is really offensive, not just to military combat veterans, but what about the other Gold Star families who actually think that they deserve this acknowledgement?
I don't think we're going to hear about that tonight. Here are some other things I don't think we're going to hear about. The almost 718,000 migrant encounters at the border, the $13.1 trillion in spending under the Biden administration, with 141 going toward climate investments. Oh, we'll hear about the climate stuff, guaranteed. And President Biden enjoying 207 days of vacation while keeping Americans in the dark. Just 22 press conferences since taking office. To that point that I just made, Corey, are you expecting a speech heavy on climate and very light on the border?
I think it's going to absolutely step aside when it comes to the border. I think he's going to talk about climate change. I think he's going to talk about an increase in investment. I think he's going to try and tout these jobs numbers, which we talked about. He's not going to address the real issues. He's not going to address the things that he knows that he has been continually failing in. And I think that the American people deserve the transparency and accountability. This is a State of the Union speech. That means that you need to be addressing the good, the bad, the ugly. You have to come across and you have to be transparent and honest with the American people. And that's something that Joe Biden, unfortunately, he is the least accessible president that we've ever had. He's not going to take the hard questions. He's not going to address the people and the real issues. He's going to continue to spin things for the American people so that they can believe that he's doing something right, which is truly a false narrative.
I think it's totally going to be a Pollyanna speech, to your point. And again, as Joe Biden has repeatedly said, including last week, climate change is the greatest existential threat facing Americans as that balloon slowly made its way across our country. Congressman Corey Mills, thank you for your time this morning.